What's good with my humans? Welcome to another podcast episode, Systems Disruptors, right? Crucial conversations for radical educators. You got your guy, the game orchestrator, Hernani Santos. Alongside with me, I got the board of game with me, right? The lovely Dr. Kiana O'Leary, Dr.
Hi
Yuma
everyone.
Ananuju. What's up, family?
What's good? What's good?
Y'all
I ain't
excited?
seen since I ain't seen since last year.
Oh, that's crazy, huh? That's true.
Right. Time just blowing by. Y'all ready?
Let's do
Yeah,
this.
let's get
Listen,
in it.
let's get to it. So, we have a dynamic guest this evening. Tonight's episode is going to be around restorative justice, right? And so we got our guy, Dr. Timothy F. Howell II. How you doing, my friend?
Doing pretty good, man. Thank you for having me. Good to be here.
Absolutely. Before we get into it, man, I want to let the viewers know a little bit more about you. So I'm going to just read your bio, if that's all right with you, my guy.
That'll be great. Thank you.
All right. Dr. Howell II has 26 years of educational experience. He graduated from UCLA and obtained a doctorate in educational leadership from CSUN. He believes that the foundation to sustaining educational development is grounded in building relational capacity. He is a passionate and transformative educational administrator with 20 plus years in leading school
Mm.
administration while enhancing the intellectual, emotional, social, and physical needs of students. Proven success in building solid relationships within the local community that creates enhanced learning experiences. Well versed in establishing objectives aligned with this district strategies, administering budgets, and overseeing high impact educational programs while promoting opportunities for student achievement in large metropolitan school systems. Excellent statistical systems management and communication skills leading to optimum outcomes. Hey, what all that means, brother, is that you all that in a bag of chips.
Right.
You feel me?
I
And a
appreciate
bowl of
that.
grits, cheese grits at that.
I appreciate it, man.
Hey, it's a
Yes,
pleasure
sir.
to have you. It's a pleasure to have you. I'm excited to see some of the gems you're gonna drop on some of our viewers today, right? So let me
Awesome.
just explain, how this is going to work. One thing I have to highlight is that you're a Spotlight Award winner for this year's Equity Ingenuity Conference going down March 23rd virtually, right? And
Yeah,
so we're definitely very honored, to be highlighting you, man.
I appreciate that. Yeah, my first experience. So yeah, this is great.
Yeah, I can't wait to see. And I know this is kind of like a precursor to what's going to transpire, right? And whatnot. So I'm excited just to hear some of the nuggets you're gonna drop on us. So this is how it's gonna go. We have rapid fire topics. So in this season, we have switched our format up, right? Last season it was pretty much me just having a conversation. This time we want all the game, right? And so we're
Okay.
gonna have some topics. Dr. Key is gonna keep us on point because if you let me and IJ do it, we go be talking for about 2 hours
Right.
minimum. So she's gonna keep us on point. We have 5 minutes, Key, per topic.
Five, not 5.1, not 5.2. 5 minutes.
Yeah,
And the
we have.
timer goes off.
That's right. So we got 5 minutes. All right.
Right.
Yeah. Any questions that you have before we get started?
No, I just want to get into it. That's what we do.
Key, IJ, anything you want to say before we do it?
No, man, I'm looking forward to the conversation.
Yeah, ain't nothing to it but to do it. Let's go.
Man, well, let's get this thing cracking, man. So first topic. First topic. Why do critics argue that restorative justice, also known as RJ programs, fail to provide real consequences for bad behavior in schools? On your
So
marks, get set, go.
all right, so let me jump in real quick. A lot of people they want punitive, and they feel like a consequence hasn't been resulted if the outcome is not punitive. But you can hold with the restorative justice, you can hold students accountable and allow them to take responsibility for that behavior without it being punitive. It's more accountability.
You
I
know,
think folks just want like immediate gratification, and it's this whole like, I always remember being a principal, and Santos, you probably remember this or probably experienced this. The parent comes in, they like, well, what you do to the other kid?
Mm-hmm.
There's this I don't know why we are so drawn to seeing the consequences of others or wanting to have immediate gratification. So when you don't see some punitive consequence of that student cleaning tables, or that student removed from the learning environment, or that student going home, or some type of, what we deem as consequence, when we don't get that, we don't think that there is restoration. We don't think that there's learning. We don't think that there's some true impact happening with that young person. And so I just feel that we have a toxic society in how we consider rehabilitating folks back into communities where harm has been practiced or executed.
Yeah, like you said, when people deem as what is the actual consequence, and people always standing back looking at pointing the fingers like that is enough. I know a lot of, sometimes even with educators, they want blood. They forget about the human, and they just like, I just want you to pay for this. And they don't even understand that actually restorative justice, if somebody takes accountability, you're really paying for it, because you got to deal with what it is you did wrong. You got to make amends. And then what that does is that put the work and responsibility on the individual to where they won't do that again. For example, in relationship, if I mess up with my girl, it's easy for me to just take a punishment, kick me on out the way. I don't have to deal with it. But when I got to sit there and I got to say, this is what I did, why I did it, I was there for this long, I did that, now that's the punishment enough for itself. I got to sit there and like, until the next time, I'm like, you know what? I ain't doing that, because I do not feel like going through all of that. So it's not even just like a punitive thing. I'm breaking up with you, get out, destroy everything. No, let's sit down and talk about it. I was like, oh no, I really don't want to do that. But those are the areas when I look at restorative justice, take accountability to the individual.
Hey, I'm ready for the philosophy that IJ get ready to drop on us, man. Come on.
no, the whole has been said, but I was just going to add that, our society is not really interested in rehabilitation. It never has been. Our society is only interested in punishing, right? We have a perverse relationship, where we get a perverse satisfaction out of seeing other people harmed and seeing other people hurting, right? And so, people don't want restorative justice, because at the end of the day, restorative justice is against harm and against hurting other people. And that's what most people want, right? We don't want to see people rehabilitated. We don't want to see people get better. We don't want to see people learn. We want to be able to take out whatever anger, pain, disappointment, abuse that we've experienced on somebody else. And restorative justice prevents us from doing that. So that's what I think anyway.
And I would just say, to an extent, some of it is because, with certain people, groups of people, like culture has been stolen, right? So if you go to, different cultures, I'm thinking about when I was going through my own RJ training, it talked about the village, that when something was done, the whole village came together. And, you had the person who committed the wrong in the middle, and it was more about healing, right? And then you think about, coming to this country and having to assimilate, and, what I mean? Like, culture is lost. Its culture was stolen. And, people have now conformed to what it was to be in this country versus, going, and you can look throughout, throughout history. It's not one particular culture. It was multiple cultures throughout the world who operated like that, right? And so I think that has a bit to do with it, that people are looking at, how things operate here. And again, it's not about the healing, right? And we kind of lost touch with that, and that's my 2 cents.
Time.
All right. Hey, we did good.
All right.
We did good. All right. Number
Y'all
2.
getting better. Y'all not running your mouth so much.
Hey, it's about being concise. All right, number 2. Can every child be rehabilitated in a traditional school setting?
I'll
That
jump in. I'm excited to hear what Tim has to say on this, because I know that you worked at some alternative education schools, working specifically with students who had all been kind of kicked out of their homeschool, and you were there supporting them. You even supported me on some of those incidents. And so, when you would go to this school, the magnitude of what he was doing with the learners, the very students that everyone had kicked out of this district, and to see what Principal Howell was doing with these kids was it was phenomenal. So speak to that, because I know that's definitely your cup of tea.
Yeah, so when you talk about every child, I mean, it's like they're all children. And, to be rehabilitated, I believe that you can, but you have to have different approaches. You can't just do one thing for every single kid. So for me, I study and I learn from the kids. The children teach me how to adapt, the things that they need. So kids come in with certain traumas or certain situations, and you got to be delicate with some you just got to be direct. Some you got to read them just like they're reading you, to be able to support them and help. And when kids see that, and they know, because they feed off the energy, they're studying, they can tell, like almost like, like if you have a pet or a dog or something, they sense in you. The students, they can sense. And then once they know that you have their best interest, they'll give in and they'll trust. And then that's when you can mold them and give them. And also they participate in their healing. They participate in their redirection and all the things that they need. But it's like you have to get through that first layer first, being able to connect with them, build that relationship, understand. Even if you don't understand, it's not even about that. It's just like, do you have a heart? And I think that if you've ever been in a situation where you needed help, if you ever been in a situation where you just was at the bottom, and and somebody reached out to you and somebody helped you, I think that's where that compassion can come in and understand. And that's what happened to me. But I was doing that before. But even when I was going through a tough time in my life, it really became clear. Like sometimes these kids are in positions they didn't ask for it. That's the hand that they were dealt. Now, how do we help them get through it? And they can be helped. So that's kind of where I'm looking at it.
I think when I first heard this question, I thought to myself immediately, rehabilitate to what? I think we have to problematize this concept of rehabilitation, because when you think about a traditional school setting that for majority of our babies is harmful, then what are we rehabilitating them to? We're rehabilitating them to learn how to assimilate to an environment that was never created for them, right? And so the answer is, one, maybe rehabilitation is not what they need, right? Maybe we need to continue pushing them in the direction that they're going in, not in terms of like behaviors that are harmful to themselves or others, but in terms of like, yeah, let's continue to move away from what is traditional. Let's continue to move away from what society says our babies need to be a part of, because we understand that it's killing our babies. It's hurting them. It's killing their self-esteem. My sister said the other day, I didn't feel bad about myself until I started going to school. It was school that taught me how to have low self-esteem, right? When they assigned a grade to my name, or they assigned certain behaviors to me that weren't natural to my home environment, to my culture, right? And so I think like for some of our babies, the quote unquote rehabilitation, the true rehabilitation starts when we get them out of the traditional school setting, when we can get them into settings that actually affirm who they are as individuals. And this is, to me, it's not even a black or white thing. Traditional school doesn't affirm any of our babies, right? Like it makes it so that our babies have to earn their humanity, whether you black, white, Chinese, in between, other, right? And so sometimes getting them out of that environment, we try to rehabilitate them in an environment that is steadily telling them that they're not worth nothing every single day, right? You got 6 periods, 3 of your teachers say you can do it, 3 of your teachers say, I can't wait till they get you out of this school. And we trying to rehabilitate you on that, right? So I think we got to really kind of look across the board and say, like, what are we really trying to really rehabilitate them to and for? Because this system really ain't set up for them to succeed anyway.
Right. I'm sorry, real quick. When we talk about rehabilitation, because so when I was talking about the experience, I was at an alternative school, so it really wasn't the traditional school. But at any rate, I think Frederick Douglass said something with there's no without the struggle, there is no progress, something like that. And so when we talk about helping our kids living in this society, in this world, whether it's private, public, or anything like that, students have to be able to receive love. Now, when you say I'm going to rehabilitate you to get you back here, or rehabilitate you to get, actually, I'm looking at what does this kid need as far as they're feeling bad about themselves. They're angry. There's a lot of things that's going on. So you can call it rehabilitation, or you can call it whatever you want to call it. But at the end of the day, the kid needs something. And it has to be, it's love. It's like you can see when a kid is hurt and damaged, don't fit in, people talking about them or whatever. So trying to mold them to get them back into the mainstream or whatever, that's not my thing. That will happen on its own, wherever they want to go. If they want to go back to mainstream, if they want to go private, if they want to, whatever they want to do, but they can't make a move. They can't do anything if they're broken and not able to function in this society that we have to live in it. So that's kind of the point I wanted to bring up.
Yeah, and I was gonna say, instead of rehabilitate, I would just say impact, right? And I believe that restorative justice can have an impact on all. I've seen it personally in my work, but right now I just highlight my wife. She was working until this year at a community day school within the Vallejo City Unified School District, and her and her counterpart did restorative circles every day, right? And they got to the point where there would be like 2 sides or 2 different crews beefing with each other, but they all did something to end up at the community day school. And through the restorative justice circle process, those young people were able to be at school with each other, be in the classroom with each other. And if something went down, they would stop like friends who were coming to the campus from making it go down there. Now, I may have went down somewhere in the community, but for them, their school setting was sacred, right? They had built a relationship, so to speak, and so they weren't going to disrespect that, right? And so the impact was just showing that these kids can, conduct themselves differently. And they started to, talk about things they aspire to do, but it goes back to what you were saying, Dr. Howe. That was all a part of being loved on.
Yeah.
Dr. IJ laid it out eloquently, like, through the process, like that's how the kids are broken, right? That's how these babies are broken. And through the restorative process, they can begin the healing, and it can have an impact,
Have you ever done a actual restorative circle? Has anybody in the panel done it? Because and when I used to run those, you got to bring, even as a facilitator, you got to get on their level. I wasn't Dr. Howe on that. It was like I even shared when issues that I was going through to break that ice. So they could see and understand this man got problems just like I got problems. And, they're all different. And by the time you're done with that circle and the emotions, you tapped into a few things, it's a whole different experience, man. And it's just like, it's to have that experience with circles with kids and you know, they looking at you, you looking at them, and you're like, man, I didn't even know. They looking at me, man, Dr. Howell, I'm sorry about, you know, this and this and that. Then at the end of the day, you have a smooth, a nice day, you know, based on just opening up and showing love and respect to each other.
One thing you hit on, Dr. Howe, and I'll reiterate, I'm grateful that I get to learn from all three of these brothers that's on this call. And they, you know, when you sit at a place of being a lifelong learner, you learn and then you retweak your practice. And I remember there was a young gentleman, I don't know if you even remember this, years ago, who we had transitioned over to your school, the alternative school, and then he had promoted or did whatever he needed to do. He rehabbed himself back over to my school as the traditional school. And he probably adhered to our systemic rules for 2 weeks, the max.
Right.
And then he had figured out, if I start doing displeasing behaviors, I can get back over there to Principal Howell at the time. And so I had you come over there and talk with him, and we sat and we asked him, like, why are you displaying these unwanted behaviors when we have seen a demonstration of you being capable to even get back here? And he said, because I don't want to be here. I want to be there. Why? Because I felt like a leader. I was able to contribute to some of the rules and some of the changes and some of the ways we were getting acknowledged. And I learned in that moment, like, oh, we don't give him student agency here. He doesn't feel like he's a valued member of the community here. He doesn't feel that his perspectives matter to the adults here on this traditional campus. So he feels safe going back to an environment where his voice is amplified and he's highlighted. And I learned from there, like, oh, the value of embedding student agency in the policies and the programs that I was going to lead forward in my schools. But that's time.
All
Hey,
right.
I'm just gonna add this though, Key. I'm sorry, but that's exactly, I think, what IJ was talking about. Like, what are we rehabbing them to? I think that's an excellent point, because we rehabbed them to there, but he wasn't rehabbed. He went back into the same type of system that created those feelings. So until you changed it, of course, Dr. Key.
I don't know about
All right,
that.
number 3 is restorative justice ineffective, or is it not being properly implemented in schools?
Well, you know, that's one of the, you know, that's my area. You know, I've been moved to, this is my third move to put me at a school where they need, you know, because it's just been chaos. So it's obviously been done ineffectively. It's been done wrong. But at the same time, even if you are doing it right, if you don't have the right heart, you know, you could mess it up. The kids have to be able to trust and believe that you're going to be fair. See, I can get on this one kid about something, and I can get on this kid about the same thing, but do it a whole different way. And the students understand why I'm giving it to this kid this way, and I'm giving it to this kid that way, only because you know, across the board, I'm not, I don't have a side or whatever. I feel like I'm doing what's right. I'm doing what's right for this one. I'm doing what's right for this one. And so kids have to be able to trust and believe in that. So if it's not working, then you're doing something wrong. And if you're doing everything perfectly, then your heart is in the wrong place. And they don't feel that connection or that right energy. See, you'll get bit by a dog if your energy is off.
That made so much sense. I just want to sit on that a little bit, because, you know, you go to the training, you get all the little binders, you get the checklist, and there's some person right now who's watching. They're like, I do all the systems. We come in and we do the meditation, and then we form our circles, and they still are not getting the affect of impact, that word that you use, Santos, because is your heart in it? Is your heart right? IJ, I want you to speak on that, because I know that's something that you have articulated in the past about this alignment with heart and this ideology of love.
No, I mean, honestly, I was just having this conversation in my department meeting earlier today when someone threw out the term social justice, and I was just like, stop using it. You know what I mean? Like restorative justice, social justice, all of these different terms, to me, they are operationalizing what should they are operationalizing the one thing that should be most easiest for us to do, and that's just show love, right? Like restorative justice, all it is a way of manipulating people. I don't want to say manipulating, but it's just a way of getting people to do what they should be doing anyway. And that is, if you are an educator, you love babies. And when you love somebody, you give them opportunities to be restored, right? Like that's what you do for your own children, right? Your own children, they make a mistake, you give them opportunity after opportunity after opportunity to be restored. Somebody you in a relationship with, they make a mistake, you give them opportunities to be restored, right? And you don't look at your daughter or your son and say, this is restorative justice. You say, this is love.
Yeah,
right?
straight up.
I'm gonna love you when you don't want me to. I'm gonna love you when you want me to. And so for me, I get frustrated because when you operationalize something that is so basic and so simple, you inevitably create space and opportunity for it to be implemented wrong.
Mm.
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah.
Say that
You
again.
know what I
For the people
mean?
in the back. Say that again for the people in the back.
No, but serious though, right? It's like if I have to tell you how to love me, then anything that doesn't fall within those strict parameters of what I lay out in front of you, you act like you no longer know how to love.
Yeah.
And it's like, that's not true, right? It goes back to what I was saying in the beginning. You're looking for reasons to not rehabilitate. You're looking for reasons to punish. You're looking for reasons to cause harm. And the first opportunity you get to fall outside of the guidelines of what is restorative and do it in a way that is going to create harm, you do. And you show your true colors, which is, I'm not here for the babies.
Yeah.
I'm here for whatever other reason it is, but I'm not here for the babies because, you know, we used to talk about those teachers that would get a high off of failing students. Those teachers that like they would, you know, wear like a badge of honor the number of F's that they gave in a semester. And it'd be like, what part of teaching is that? You would never go to a restaurant and a chef be telling you how many customers left his restaurant disappointed. Like, yep, 3 of my customers sent their plates back. Like, no, like that doesn't happen in any other industry, but this industry where it's like you get happy when like, yep, I failed 6 students. They thought they was gonna get over. Like, let them get over. Like,
Help. You're there. You're there to help. You're there to help them.
Right.
Man, I'm sorry. I know we went over the time, but can I just share this one piece? That's why I'm having a difficult time, you know, writing. I wanted to write what I'm doing in some type of handbook or this and this, how I'm turning the school around. And then I just stopped because I'm just like, I don't care. I can write it perfectly, but if it gets in the hands of the wrong person and try to implement it, it's not going to work. Just saying.
Santos, I know we over time, but we'll let you jump in on that round and say your tidbit. We can't do that to the host.
No, I agree. No, I agree with everybody. It's a heart condition, man, because you know, and sometimes it's like, well, have you not ever made a mistake? I mean, a large part of what I do is because I made many mistakes, and if it wasn't for people who extended me grace, I wouldn't be sitting in this chair right now, right? So who would I be to say? You made a mistake. Now I'm gonna go hard on you, right? When I know people over the years have gave me opportunity after opportunity. So it's a heart condition. You know, and I would say this too. Some of it is a response to inadequacy in the classroom, man. Like if I'm not on point, it's easy for me just to put a kid out, right?
Yep.
Because classroom management and the part,
yep.
My lesson planning it, because I didn't plan for, you know, you guys would be through this material so quickly. So what do I do next? You guys are goofing off on your phone. Get out of my class.
Yep.
So that's my 2 cents.
And
You know,
it's
I'm reading the book, and in this text is actually our book study book. We had Dr. Love. She was our keynote last year, and in the book she said that she wouldn't be where she is today if she didn't have a teacher who says, like, under my domain, you don't have a right to fail. You don't get to fail under my watch. You don't get to not be the best you under my watch. And it just reminded me of a young man who has reached a level of success who I once serviced, and he said, "You didn't let me goof off. You didn't let me fail. You didn't let me not give you the best. That wasn't even an option when it came to you." And that right there was love, because you required me to be the best version of myself, and we was going to redo it until I submitted to understanding how much you care for me, and I finally yielded. And some people, they don't have that resistance to the resistance, right? Because if you don't see that baby as somebody who could be your own child, or if you don't have an investment in that child's future because you don't see them as valuable, or you don't see them as someone who could, transcend your ideas of them, then you will allow them. I've heard teachers say, if you're going to fail, just fail quietly. Not under my watch. You don't have that as an option. So I just think that it also depends on the heart and the gumption, if you will, of a teacher who understands their assignment, as the young people would say. Understand your assignment.
Preach.
all right.
All right. All right. Next topic. Can you share a restorative justice success story?
Well, let me jump in real quick. Actually, I was at the alternative education school. I'm no longer there, but I still stay in contact, and I go over there and visit from time to time. And one day I went over and they had a guest speaker, and it was one of my past students. And I didn't even remember what he looked like or anything, but he remembered me. So he's speaking, and I'm standing in the back, and he brings it up. He was like, I remember it was a old principal, Mr. Howell, and he wouldn't let me. He just helped me. He wouldn't let me fail. Those are the words he was using. He said, I remember because I like to fight, so he put me in boxing. He paid for it, sent me to boxing. He was saying that out of him and all of his friends, he was the only one that survived. All his other friends that he was hanging around with, that I had been telling him about, his mom been telling him about, he said they were shot, killed, died, didn't make it. And he came back and he was telling this story to the next generation. And then when I was standing in the back and he mentioned my name, they was like, Dr. Howell is in the back. He was like, Dr. Howell. And he came, gave me a big old hug. And he was just like, man, he was just speechless. And so was I. And it was like, I didn't, know that he was going to be coming back telling the story. So it's like, I knew at that point, like, the difference that, I was making in kids' lives. So I still do that work.
Who wants to go next?
I'll go, and IJ knows the story because we could actually tag team on this one.
That's why I didn't say nothing, because I knew you was gonna say that story. Go ahead.
So I was principal at the continuation high school with the district at Vallejo, and IJ was in a unique position that was just created. He was actually the first one positive what is it, PYJ, Positive Youth Justice Liaison or something like that. Anyways, he was working with this student, and this kid was in and out my office constantly. But on this one, he got it was after school. He got into the bus to take him to probation, or the van. Teacher comes to my office. All her little satchel was stolen, had everything, credit cards, car keys, all that. And she said who she thought it was because he was right there. So we go pull him out the van. He didn't have anything on him. We let the people in the van know what was going on. So they searched the van. They found her car keys in the van, right? So it was him. So IJ and I, we just like, and this teacher, we talk about punitive, but we have been doing a lot of restorative justice work over the last 2 years. I'm like, man, she about to call the police. He going to jail, right? I mean, he was already in the probation van, all that. So I spoke to him, you know, and the timing was as such to where we had to deal with it on Monday, right? Because she had left to go get her spare key, whatever, however it went. So I spoke to him and I said, well, come back on Monday and we're gonna have a big meeting, blase, blase. Before the meeting happened, the teacher came in because it was a Friday. So she came in on Monday. I'm like, oh, here we go. You know, it's time to call the boys. And she looked at me and she said, you know what? Because he had been in and out of juvenile hall. She said, going to jail has not worked for him. So I want to have an RJ with him. And in the meantime, over the weekend, wherever he tossed all her credit cards and all that, he went and retrieved it. And he brought it with him to that meeting. And we had like the most amazing circle
Wow.
where she just opened up, said, hey, this hasn't been working for you. I want better for you, you know, blah, blah, blah. So last year I'm at the bank, right? So he didn't go to jail. You know, we didn't we didn't suspend him because we had the circle. And so he graduated and time goes on. Last year I see him at the bank at Bank of America on Sonoma Boulevard. And this young brother is working as a mechanic, has a family, and he's doing well, right? And that could have all been changed if she just came in and said, no, I'm calling the police, I want to file a report. And it works, man, but your heart has to be in the right place. And her heart has shifted working, you know, with me as the principal, because we had a huge emphasis in restorative justice. And when she said that blew us back, right, IJ?
It absolutely did. And I mean, the funny notes of this story is young bro called me every day all weekend. He went from like, I didn't do it to what you think gonna happen to me? Like, and then he called me, he was like, yo, I'm about to go hop that fence and get her stuff. I said, you about to what? He said, I'm about to go. Man, he showed up Monday morning, sweating bullets. He didn't call me a bunch of times. But it was one of the most dynamic RJ sessions we ever had, because like Santos said, it was not only did she recognize that it hadn't worked for him, but she also recognized that he was getting ready to turn 18.
Mm-hmm.
And so by him taking her keys, she was like, oh, he's not going to juvenile hall. Like, he's going to be facing a larger consequence. We need to save him while we can. And I mean, the young man had a young kid at the time. And it just goes, we've had a number of those instances of young people who have came back, who we worked with personally in a restorative fashion, and to see them, like, it's crazy, because it's like they just got to get past that teenage angst,
Yeah.
and then they'll be all right. You know what I mean? Like, it pains me that we judge children for being children.
Right.
We want them to be adults so bad that it's like, I'm tired of you being a child, so I'm gonna punish you for being a child. Like, we got to stop that.
Right.
I got a text this week from a friend of mine, and I was asked, there were a group of girls who just weren't making great decisions. I was at a private school at the time. I had been RJ certified, and you know, but some of the consequences were like not being out of uniform. And it was all the way to, you know, ditching with boyfriends and whatever, everything in between what teenage girls do. And so I said, well, let me start a girls group. We started a group called King's Daughters, but I knew it was important that we met off of campus. I knew that there was something about having a sacred space for these girls to talk was going to be helpful. So I had to coerce the parents and the principal to let me have the meetings at my parents' house. And we started off with 7, and then we kind of grew from there. And then I had to ask one of my best girlfriends, hey, can we have it at your house? And her husband welcomed. And next thing you know, we got 25, 35, 45 girls on a Friday night, not going to football games, not going to basketball games, but coming to have this restorative opportunity to really talk about some of the challenges that they were going through and even some of the beef that they had with one another. And then also, this was a spiritual group, so we also prayed as well. And so fast forward, I got a text this week where a good friend of mine, my brother, he texts me and he says, you know this person? And it's a picture. Of course, I got to kind of pay attention a little harder because this person is now an adult. And I'm able to identify that it was one of the girls in our King's Daughters group. And he said, she's now my colleague. She's working with me at the city. And so she got her a city job after graduating and getting her bachelor's degree. And he was just saying she went on for hours and hours talking about, if it wasn't for King's Daughters, I wouldn't be who I am or where I am today. And so he said, you really had an impact on this young lady. And so you don't get the immediate gratification of restorative justice. You get it eons and years later. But if you have the right mindset and the right heart, it will eventually come full circle. So that was my success story for RJ.
And I want to just jump in and add about, the young man with the lady that, didn't call the police and had a shift in their heart. It's because we are doing this work and I model the example or whatever. So it even though I'm restoring and using these practices with the students, some adults, may get some of that information. It may rub off on them.
I would say too, I love it. And also, not only do the kids need restorative justice, but so do the adults, right?
Yep.
So with this particular teacher, there are certain situations where she would create a fire because of her approach. But I always was restorative with her. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. And so that is part of the rubbing off. Like and all of us on this call, it's just how we operate, right? No, I was operating like this before restorative justice had a name, like
right. I think it's when you've been in a place where you needed restoration, when you needed mercy, when you needed, I think a lot of people that make decisions and always punitive, they haven't been in a situation where they needed mercy and they needed somebody to help them out and make a phone call or to stand in the gap for them. And that's where, like for me, I was a judgmental person at first until I started going through some stuff that, man, I needed help. And I'm looking around and I remember it was a female pastor. All she said to me, she said, Tim, you're a good man. And that's all I needed. Turn my life around.
Absolutely.
Yep.
Are y'all ready for this last question?
Let's go.
Do you believe a restorative justice circle with Cat Williams and other comedians, which he was going in on, will restore the harm he has described in a recent interview with Shannon Sharpe?
Wow. So, let me just say this and get this out the way. When you're talking about grown men, adults, you know what I'm saying? It's like to dig through all of the mess that we have, that's gonna take a miracle. But what I will say is, looking at the sensitive side, I just think Cat Williams, he was hurt by how he was done. He had a tough life, and things that he had to go through growing up. And then he gets out there and experience a lot of these things. And then people who's supposed to have his back, did him wrong. And so if he did a circle, the people would really find out, like, man, he's just hurt from, how he was done. And then you'll probably find out that other people in the circle, something happened to them. Because that's what those circles do. It opens up and peels back those layers that everybody hides and protect.
That would be an interesting thing. You talking about breaking the internet, it'll bust the internet wide open. Everybody will stop what they doing to come see this restorative circle. Right. I often am interested in learning, why is it that adults don't do what we try to have children do? Like, to have a restorative circle It's to admit you're wrong. It's to be an active listener. It is to communicate how you're going to resolve your behaviors. These are real adult-like practices, and yet we don't have adults doing them in the real world, and we expect kids from kinder on up to 12th grade to do what adults can't do. No, what do adults do? They blast each other. They make fun of each other. They air out the dirty laundry with each other, and then we tell kids, but you don't do that. You go be restorative. And so I would love for us to practice this more in society as adults, because we are forcing the most vulnerable and the least experienced human beings to do something that we as adult people have yet to do.
Now, I would say, it's a possibility it could work, but what people overlook when it comes to restorative justice circles is that there's a lot of work on the back end that needs to be done before you could just jump into a circle. And then also, it's not a one circle thing, right? Like they have to be in it for the long haul. They really want to get to the bottom of it. But you gotta lay the groundwork, right? One of the first circles you do when you embark on that is expectations, right? The one that I use is just fold a piece of paper over, and on one side you're gonna express in one word what you need from the circle, and then on the other side you're gonna express what you bring. Like all these things need to happen in order for the circle to be effective. And I think it could work, but it would take a lot of work on the back end to make sure everyone's in the right mindset, has the right mindset, and has the heart for it. And if they're all in agreement with it, it could work. But they would have to be open, and they would have to want to, be part of the restoration.
Yeah.
What do you think, IJ?
Man, that's a great question. I think one of the challenges that Cat Williams brought up in that interview was his perception of truth, right? And his perception that folks were being dishonest. Would a restorative justice circle work? Of course. But folks have to come in there with the mindset of, really wanting to communicate with each other, really wanting to be truthful in their communication, and ultimately really wanting to see each other heal, right? You got to be okay with you have to be able to look past what someone has said and genuinely want their healing to be able to participate in that circle. But that requires humility, and that requires a sacrifice of self. And that's one of the things that I love about restorative circles, right? Is it takes the emphasis off of I and puts the emphasis on you or we. And if folks is not willing to do that, it'll never work. But yeah, to get those folks in the room, I pay for that. You talk about kings of comedy. I get a front row seat.
Also, you got to look at when you're talking about being humble and having humility. When you got millions of dollars, it's hard to be humble.
Hard.
Because I'm thinking who was facilitated this conversation. That's the first. There has to be someone who they all feel that they respect, right? And so if you like, man, we don't want you restoring nothing. You can't facilitate this conversation.
Right.
So I think there, like you said, there are so many different pieces that come into play, and a lot of work needs to be done on the front end in order for that to be successful.
Yeah, absolutely. Hey, well, that's it, you guys. That's the lab. We got through it. Hey, Dr. Howell, what did you think?
Man, it was pretty good. I like the conversation. I like the the collaboration and feeding off of each other and ideas. I think that's really important for growth and development, and even moving your profession along, because you see other people in the same field, and then you get different perspective. Everybody doesn't have to agree, but it's okay to elaborate and communicate and share ideas and thoughts, because that's what changes the world.
Hey, and while you have the camera, Do you want to say, some parting words for our viewers on this evening?
Oh, wow. Yeah. I mean, I really appreciate, the work Dr. O'Leary is doing with this. This is my first time here, and I respect Dr. O'Leary in her endeavors to branch out and reach out and do things like this, because it takes a leader or somebody to pave the way for this, and then for you guys to be coming in, asking questions and leading this. We don't know where this will lead, but it's a positive thing, and I think that especially Black folk, we need to have more positive things that are shared and displayed, rather than the narrative of the negative. That's all we do. It's like it's so quick for the media to show a Black man doing something wrong, but here we got a group of educators having a dialogue and a conversation that's positively affecting our students. And it's like, will somebody take this to the next level and show the world? Because actually there are more of us doing this type of work than it is us out there doing the wrong thing.
All right, Wade, we appreciate you joining us. One thing I appreciate is that as many viewers out there that are working in spaces that are tardy to the game. And so that's what we try to do here, on this platform, is gain people up, man, open their eyes to some different things and the possibilities. So we appreciate you joining us. Hey, we're looking forward to honoring you, highlighting you, Spotlight Award winner for the 2024 Equity Ingenuity Conference virtual, right? March 23rd.
Yes.
For all the viewers out there, you need to sign up ASAP. Are we still on the early bird right now, Key? Is that
We
over?
are not. We are actually giving everyone a flat rate fee of just $60. Just $60. You go, you register, you have access to being in there live. You also get access to the recordings afterwards. And just like we had this conversation, we'll be having much dialogue, really talking about how we can collaborate and exchange great tools for equity-centered education across the nation, across the globe. And we're happy to host.
Hey, so with that being said, you need to hit that website, Mentee Educational Services. Should be in the description, right, Key?
Correct. www.mentee-es.com. It will be in the description for you to click and go straight to our conference website to get your ticket. Register now.
All right. With that being said, IJ, you got anything for us before we get out of here?
Nah, I'm good.
Hey, listen, we're just closing out the latest episode of the Systems Disruptor podcast, crucial conversations for radical educators. Until the next time, make sure you hit that website, sign up today to be a part of our virtual Equity Ingenuity Conference 2024, March 23rd. Tap in. Let's go like yee.
Thanks a lot.